to the SEC Unfiltered platform. I appreciate you guys listening to all our content on all our channels, all our platforms. I know I speak for everybody from the SEC Unfiltered family when I say that, but I am your host, Dave Shumate, longtime SEC recruiting personnel staffer, and I'm here to give you Gamecock fans the top 5 impact players for the South Carolina Gamecocks heading in to 2024. But first, as you know, guys, we got to pay some bills, and we're starting off with our guys at MyBookie. Go to mybookie.ag and use code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. Guys, it's betting season. It's betting season. Again, the week 0 curse continues for me, but we're going to get better. Week 1 coming up. Go place your bets with our guys. Go do it, guys. Why wouldn't you? Use code SECU if you decide to as well to get a special welcome offer on your first deposit. But let's get to why you're here, guys. The top 5 impact players for the South Carolina Gamecocks heading into year 4 for Shane Beamer. Big year. I think a big momentum year. We're going to really find out what the tenure long-term is for Shane Beamer in Columbia. Let's get to it. Who are some of these impact players that will affect this season? Coming in number 5, guys. And before we get into this, let me explain. If you've followed this segment before, we go in reverse chronological order. We're going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 through 1. I'll talk about some guys at the end that I think just missed the cut that you could probably make an argument. South Carolina was an interesting one for me. I feel pretty good. I have some guys that fans are going to be like, all right, yeah, he did his homework on this. But let's get to it. Number 5, tight end, Josh Simon. A room that should be deeper in 2024. And Josh Simon will be leading that, I would assume, and from talking to people. In 23, I'm looking at it now, it's snapped like 28, caught 28 balls for 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Best games, it looked like statistically, were against the fellow Gamecocks. Jacksonville State, Rich Rod and the boys, and Vanderbilt had 64 and 65 yards, while he had 2 touchdowns receptions against Florida and A&M. So a solid year across the board. I just think with the lack of players on the outside in the whole change of scheme for the most part, running with the quarterback, throwing off play action, I think the tight end is going to get involved here. I think he's going to be valuable in this passing game for Dow Loggins and for LaNorris Sellers. But I'm just not expecting South Carolina to stretch the field vertically as much this year. I think they're going to lean on the run game with Sellers, mixed in a little bit with Robbie Ashford. You got Rocket Sanders, Oscar Attaway. I like the weapons they have in the run game more so than I do on the outside. So, and I think that tight end settling in a redshirt freshman quarterback is going to be that safety valve. I think Josh Simon, at least very early in the season, is going to have an impact because, again, South Carolina's not going to throw the ball 35 times a game or 35 plus times a game in half their games last year. I think Spencer Rattler threw 35 plus times in 6 games or more last year. It was something like 6 or 7 just off the top of my head when I was doing my summer research. But I think Josh Simon is going to be that safety valve that LaNorris Sellers needs. So he comes in at number 5 for me. Again, this is not best players, guys. This is impact players. Coming in at number 4, we're going to the other side of the football. Some would say maybe the strength of the Carolina team in 2024. Safety, Nick Emmanwori, 3rd-year starter and one of the leaders on the back end with his buddy DQ Smith. If South Carolina wants to make a bowl game in 24, I don't think this is some bold prediction, they're going to have to rely on the defense early, I think. I do believe, because I think it's going to be a work in progress offensively. I mean, they face a really good Kentucky defense with 10 starters back in week 2. I just think the defense is going to have to carry them some wins early. I really do. Like I think Nick Emmanwori, I think guys like Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, Alex Huntley, guys up front are going to have to help as well. The defense is going to have to carry the water is probably the best way to explain it. And it's possible, but you're just not going to go win a lot of games in low-scoring games. Your offense is going to have to produce a ton. So you don't want to put too much on this defense, secondary front, whatever you want to call it. But I do think guys like Emmanwori, DQ Smith, some of those guys on the defensive line are going to have to make an impact. If you told me Carolina got to 6 to 7 wins this year, I would say the back end, especially those safeties, and probably some guys on the corner like Fortune, are going to have to step up. That's kind of how I kind of feel it. That's kind of how I feel with this. Like Emmanwori, I can't tell you exactly where the stats-wise, I'm not going to predict that. I just know on the back end, they're going to have to be improved. And they have some guys they can be. It's just when you start facing these athletes that they'll see against LSU, that they'll see against Ole Miss. I mean, Oklahoma's got Jaleel Farouk, Nick Anderson, Deion Burks coming over. They're going to see some guys that are going to be tested. So can they withstand that? It's easy to say that in fall camp that, hey, man, y'all better watch out for this defense. It's going to be good. Let's see. But I think if South Carolina is going to have success, Nick Emmanwori, probably his buddy DQ Smith, those 2 safeties are going to have to be the guys holding it down on the back end. So Nick Emmanwori, the safety, comes in for me at number 4. Number 3, defensive tackle, TJ Sanders, one of the leaders. I mentioned him earlier. One of these other guys who had to step up on defense. We're staying with Clayton White and the boys right here. This is probably South Carolina's best unit from top to bottom, the defensive line. I mentioned it. TJ Sanders, Tonka Hemingway, Alex Huntley, Boogie and the boys. You got, last year, Sanders, 43 tackles, 9.5 tackles for a loss, 4.5 sacks, 4 pass breakups. And what was sort of a breakout year for him last year, he's going to have to improve on that. He's going to have to improve on that. I think you saw it a little bit against Georgia. They held their own against, but it's got to be consistent week to week. Old Dominion, that's a team. It's not just a roll the ball kind of game out there. I think they're going to be a little worse than they were last year, Dominion, but they went to a bowl game last year. They were a 6-6 team until they lost in the bowl game. But in games like that, they're going to have to show up. Games against Kentucky, games against Vandy, games against South Carolina's going to be an underdog in a lot of their conference games. But TJ Sanders, that defensive line, specifically on the interior, are going to have to hold it down. They're going to have to be an impact. And like I said, going back to when I was talking about Nick Emmanwori and the safety spot, the defense is going to have to carry the water early. They are. I just don't see the offense coming out not missing a beat. You could say that about a lot of teams because it takes the offense to get going a little. It takes longer for the defense, for the offense to get going, especially when you change personnel as much as they have it. So the defense across the board is going to have to step up. And this is my last defensive guy. So that's my last time harping on the defense, but I really do believe the South Carolina defense is going to have to really be the highlight, the key aspect early, probably throughout the rest of the year. They are. So I'm going to put that on the shoulders of guys like Nick Emmanwori, who came in at number 4 for us. And then right now, defensive tackle coming in at number 3, TJ Sanders and the boys. But coming in at number 2, kind of wild. I don't have this spot number 1. It's the most important position in the sport, probably the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback spot. And I'm talking about the redshirt freshman, LaNorris Sellers. Sellers is going to be good or very good, I think, this season for South Carolina to get 6 to 7 wins. And not saying that's impossible. And to be fair to him, I think he's going to need some help. He's got to get some help from his OC, Dow Logan's, probably even analyst Mike Shula. People forget Mike Shula is an analyst there, the former Alabama coach, head coach, former Carolina Panthers OC. I think they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone a little bit. Because in layman's terms, like for people who don't follow football from an X's and O's standpoint really that hard, they're more pass heavy. Like I mentioned, you play your personnel, but Spencer Rattler threw the ball 35-plus times or more in half his games last year. You can't do that with LaNorris Sellers. And from what I'm hearing from inside the building, I think Dow Logans has a little problem with that a little bit. He's got to adjust that. How early will he be able to do that? Because, again, I think the schedule could kind of have a tsunami effect on them early. They're going to have to get it going because they open up at Kentucky, who's going to be good on defense. LSU, if they can't get anything going offensively against that LSU defense, which I think will be improved, but again, how much improvement in a year? They play Oklahoma is going to be really good on defense. I think Bama's going to be good on defense. Ole Miss is going to be good on defense. They got to get it going. You could be staring at 1-4, 0-5 in the face in league play right off the bat. And like I mentioned, it's not just the coaching, the offensive line, a unit that hadn't been healthy or very good. It feels like since the Roosevelt administration. That's somebody's going to have to help him out. And then some guys on the outside. Coastal Carolina transfer, Jared Brown, I like. Vendravius Jacobs is another guy. Gage Larvadan. But he's a guy struggling with some hamstring issues out here. And then Nick Harper, the freak, 6'4", 225, 230, track phenom. But can he get out of that track and field mindset and turn that into kind of an edgy, hey, tough football player? Hey, I play hurt. I'm never going to be 100% healthy after the first day I step on the practice field. That kind of mindset Nick Harper's going to have to take over. It's not just LaNorris Sellers, but he's going to have an impact because you know what? He touches the football every play that the South Carolina offense is on the field. That's not some revolutionary reinvent the wheel statement. I'm saying you guys know that. You're smart football fans. You wouldn't be listening to this. But LaNorris Sellers is going to have a massive impact. And I only put him at 2 just because I think it's going to come down to Dow Logans, the offensive line, weapons in the backfield helping him out. And I think some of those guys in the backfield as well. So I'm not overly sold on the receivers on the outside. I'm not overly sold. Like I mentioned, that's why I got Jake. That's why I got Josh Simon, the tight end spot, coming in at number 5. I think he's going to be a nice safety valve for me. Sellers is going to need help, guys. He's going to have a supporting staff. He's not going to be the guy that's going to go win you games by himself. But I think he can go win you games if he's surrounded. Like how we used to, the grading scale we had when I worked at Georgia, when I was with Kirby Smart. We had a winnable plus, which is a guy you probably kind of win because you had winnable and winnable minus. I thought we had some too many categories at times. The other two is all conference and rare. I think LaNorris Sellers in that winnable minus right now a little bit. Could move to winnable. I don't think you win because of LaNorris Sellers. I think you can win with him if you have the right supporting cast. But coming in at number 2, quarterback LaNorris Sellers. Coming in at number 1. This is the first running back I've had on the list at number 1. At number 1, the first running back, Rocket Sanders, the Arkansas transfer. He was on the Arkansas transfer. It just kind of felt like he hadn't been back to his 2022 self because of injuries. And it sounds like South Carolina, from Shane Beamer, Dow Logans, they think they're going to get the 2022 version of Rocket. Because remember, Dow Logans was there then. He was there with Rocket in 2022 in Fayetteville. Apparently, he's down to 225 now. Apparently, Arkansas wanted him at 240. So that's something I was doing some reading, talking to some people for. But the case for it is simple. He's already done it. He's proven it in this league. He can do it. In 2022 at Arkansas, he ran for 1,400 yards, 10 touchdowns, and he was just a sophomore then. And I think similar, what helps him here is KJ Jefferson in 22 was a guy that teams had to factor in the run game. LaNorris Sellers is going to be that threat as well. Spencer Rattler, yeah, he could go pick up that 7-8 yards every now and then, but he wasn't always that running threat. With the defensive ends crashing, he's going to think 8 times out of 10, hey, Rattler's probably giving it. That's not the case with LaNorris Sellers, most likely. And I'll be interested to see how defensive end come crashing, especially early in the season against that. But I think it's very similar more so to KJ Jefferson. And I'm not saying LaNorris Sellers is going to be KJ Jefferson 2022 or 2020. I'm not saying that. I just think it's very similar. But I think Rocket Sanders is going to have a massive say this backfield, because it's going to have to be a run first offense, I think, to some kind of extent, because I think that's where your personnel fits. Both your quarterbacks are run first guys in LaNorris Sellers and Robbie Ashford. But I really do think Rocket Sanders being healthy, and maybe not being a 1,400-yard guy, but just being a solid back close to 1,000 yards. And I also think another guy that people aren't talking about enough, the North Texas transfer, Oscar Attaway, is a good player. He's going to help in the backfield. If those two guys can stay healthy, Attaway, Rocket Sanders, factor in LaNorris Sellers in the run game and some packages with Robbie Ashford, they could be cooking. I think what's my guy? Totally just slipped my mind. Dow Logans, if he can get out of this pass happy mindset and just tweak the offense a little bit. You got to have a foundational offense, don't get me wrong, but tweak it to your personnel. The best do that. The best coaches, play callers out there, tweak it to their personnel. If he can tweak that a little bit, throw off play action, that's why I like my guy Simon at tight end. Get the tight end going. Get Josh Simon going. Because, again, I don't like your weapons on the outside. I think if Rocket Sanders and this run game can stay healthy, the offensive line stay healthy, and that's where it starts, you could have a serviceable offense. Serviceable offense. That's why I think the health of Rocket Sanders is so key, and that's why I have a running back coming in at number 1. But some guys just missed the cut. Just mentioned him. Running back, Oscar Attaway from North Texas. The running game is going to be key. They're going to need guys. They're going to need depth, and he is also a good player to go along with Rocket Sanders as well. I mentioned him as well. Defensive tackle Alex Huntley, defensive tackle Tonka Hemingway. They're going to be key. That's the best unit on the South Carolina team, not just on defense. They're deeper up front on the defensive line than they've been. And I think right tackle Kason Henry. I mentioned the offensive line's got to stay healthy, and it feels like, I'm dead serious. It really feels like probably since I said the Roosevelt administration, but I was kidding. But really, since when Spurrier was there, 14 maybe, you really felt good about the South Carolina offensive line. So that's kind of where I am there. So those are 4 guys I think you could easily make a case could be in this top 5 impact players as well. But just reviewing 5 through 1, coming in at number 5, tight end Josh Simon. I think he's going to be the perfect safety blanket, safety valve, comfortability for a redshirt freshman quarterback like LaNorris Sellers. Give me Josh Simon coming in at number 5. Number 4, safety, Nick Emmanwori. He's going to have an impact. They're going to face some big-time receivers in Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Alabama, LSU. Even Kentucky has some underrated guys. But the defense is going to have to carry the water a little bit. Number 3, defensive tackle, TJ Sanders. I mentioned it. He's one of the leaders and the best unit on this South Carolina's team. That is the interior defensive line. I like the depth there. I mentioned it with Hemingway and Boogie Huntley as well. But TJ Sanders and the guys on the back end, DQ Smith and Nick Emmanwori, are going to carry the water at the very least early on until the offense gets their feet on the ground. Number 2, quarterback, redshirt freshman LaNorris Sellers. Most important position on the field, most important position in all of sports. I always say it. He's going to need some help, but he's going to have to be good if Carolina wants to get to 6 and 7. He's going to have a massive impact, either good or bad. And number 1, starts with the run game this year. Dow Logans and the Shane Beamer are going to have to establish that run that the running game up front. Again, starts on the offensive line. But I think if Rocket Sanders can get anywhere close to what he was in 2022 in Fayetteville at Arkansas, that not 1,400 yards, but close to 1,000, add in Oscar Attaway from North Texas, I think that run game, LaNorris Sellers, Robbie Ashford, they could cook something up a little bit. So I like Rocket Sanders coming in at number 1, guys. But I appreciate you joining us on this segment of the top 5 impact players for the South Carolina Gamecocks heading into 2024. It's game week, guys. And don't forget to follow us on all our platforms, channels, all social media platforms. It's SEC 24/7, 365, guys, and football season is here, guys. So there's no better place to come get all your SEC football content this fall than us here at SEC Unfiltered. But I'm your host, Dave Shumate. You have a phenomenal day.